NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bringing you the latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. So, this video is my top 5 power forwards based off of last season. We're continuing on this great marathon that is my top 5 players in respective positions, and this week is power forwards. Now, before I start, I just want to clarify how I determine each player in their respective positions. I do not watch every single NBA team every game. That's impossible. I do not watch 30 teams 82 times. No. Don't do it. We'll never do it. So everyone just don't think I do. So I do not completely base everything off of how I've seen these players play. Because the only time I really see these players play is when they're playing the Nets. So I do a lot of statistical analysis of these players. And a lot of the things I'm coming up with are based off of statistical, analysis. Looking at their stats. Looking at what they did statistically. I look at points per game, rebounds, assists, turnovers, player efficiency rating, field goal percentage. I look at all of these things and then I rank my top 5. Now the reason why I say this is because last week I had small forwards, and they were really not that great. And, a lot of people could try to make a case for a lot of different players, like, Adetokounmpo or Damari Carroll or Gallinari, something along those lines, Paul Pierce. A lot of people could make cases for those players of being top 5 small forwards, but statistically last season, they were not. Statistically, they were not. Maybe watching them play on a regular basis, you could say that they could, but statistically they were not. And I just want to clarify, that's how I determine these top 5 players. It's by stats, and when I get a basic pool of players statistically, then I use my own personal preferences from analysis from watching them play to rank them. So I just want to clarify that a lot of these players are statistically on paper the top 5 in their position from last season. But it's the only way, because I could not watch every team, 82 games, 30 teams. I could not do that. I would never do that. I wouldn't want to do that. So that's why I say feel free to put your own lists, because I'm sure there's players who are respective fans of other teams who've seen these players play more often. But like I said, I just look at them statistically, and then I use my own analytics and analysis to rank them. So that is how I determine it. Just want to clarify, just in case people were wondering, NetsBoy, how do you come up with these lists? That's how I do it. So that's that. Took care of that. Now let's dive into power forwards. The power forward position in the NBA now has kind of become a very interesting position. It's kind of the hybrid power forward center spot. The traditional center has kind of disappeared, but there's still a difference between a power forward and a center, in my opinion. And these guys that I'm going over are players who are primarily power forwards. Some of them, actually most of them, have played the center position as well, but these guys are power forwards. They're power forwards on their depth chart. Their game resembles more of that of power forwards than centers, and so these guys are power forwards. Now to start things off, Chris Bosh is not on this list because of his blood clot in his lungs. He did not play enough games to qualify. Have to keep to that rule. I've been doing it throughout the whole countdown of the top 5 players in each respective positions. That's why small forwards was a disaster. So I got to keep to it now in power forwards. So Chris Bosh is not here in my top 5. But let's dive right in with my honorable mention. There's a lot of players you could make a case for honorable mention. Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Millsap, heck, maybe even Thaddeus Young if you want to try to go Brooklyn Nets. But I went with Kevin Love. Now, Kevin Love, 16.4 points per game, 9.7 rebounds, player efficiency rating of 18.89. Just okay numbers. Shot 43% from the field, which isn't that great, but a consistent 16 and 10 player. Look, I'm giving him more of the benefit of the doubt because I know that he's capable of more. He's playing alongside LeBron James and Kyrie Irving as the third option. It took some time to get used to playing in that system, playing with those guys. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe I shouldn't. But I have him as my honorable mention. Like I said, you can make a case for Dirk. You can make a case for Millsap. You can even make a case for Tim Duncan, all I care. But I went with Love because I know there's more to his game than what we saw. So I have him as my honorable mention. But I can't make him higher than my honorable mention because he really didn't play like a top 5 power forward. So that's my honorable mention, Kevin Love. Now, my number 5, I went with Zach Randolph. 16.1 points per game, 10.5 rebounds, efficiency rating 19.54, shot 48% from the field. Just really solid numbers. And that's what Zach Randolph is. He is a solid power forward. 16 and 10, shooting 48%. You know, he was originally kind of the guy in Memphis. Now it's obviously Marc Gasol, but he's still a key player to that team. And look, 16 and 10, shooting 48%. That's why he's number 5 compared to Love, who was 16 and 10 but shot 43%. That field goal percentage is the difference between him and Love. And personally, I think Zach Randolph is just a better player. And so he's number 5. My number 4 power forward is somebody that some people might have a little bit higher, but I put him at number 4, and I'll explain why. That is Blake Griffin. Now, as you know, I am not a very big Blake Griffin fan. Matter of fact, I think he's very overrated. But you can't argue with the fact that he's still a very good player. 21.9 points per game, 7.6 rebounds, which, for me personally, I think Blake should average more. I mean, he's so gifted athletically and can really jump. I feel like he should average more rebounds. But then again, you know, I'm somebody who defends Brook Lopez when he averages 77.2 rebounds and saying he's capable of more. I know he's better than that, and it's always better than he actually is. And I'll do the opposite with Blake Griffin. I'll say he's averaging 7.6 rebounds. He's capable of more. He should be doing more. He's worst player. But, you know, that's me. I'm a Nets fan, and Brook Lopez is my favorite, so I'm going to be a little biased there. But, you know, 7.6 rebounds is not bad. I just think he should average more. I know, you know, they did have, and they still do have, DeAndre Jordan, who averaged like 11 or 13 rebounds, something like that per game. So he obviously took a lot of rebounds from Blake, but I just feel like he should average more rebounds per game. 50% field goal percentage, that's fantastic. 5.3 assists, I think led power forwards. I'm not sure on that, but that's really impressive. Good passer. 22.86 player efficiency rating, that's great. But the thing that disappoints me and why I have him at number 4, 0.5 blocks per game. Are you serious? You're 6'9". You can jump over a car, but you can't block shots? That's ridiculous. How could you be that gifted of an athlete and average only 0.5 blocks per game? James Harden, Mr. I don't play defense, averaged more blocks per game than Blake Griffin. Kemba Walker, a 6-foot point guard. Actually, he's like 5'10", 5'11", averaged same amount, 0.5 blocks per game. What? How could you be 6'9", jump over a car, have a vertical of like 38 inches, and average 0.5 blocks per game? Inexcusable. There is no logical reason why Blake Griffin did not average more blocks per game, except for the fact that he doesn't really play defense. And that's the knock on him. That's why I don't like him. All he is he jumps and dunks. Jumps and dunks. Jumps and dunks. Jumps and dunks. Yes, he developed a little bit of an inconsistent jump shot that he occasionally makes, and he gets a little shoot happy and becomes absolute garbage. And he doesn't really have a post game. He just dunks the ball. He's one of those players who completely benefit off of Chris Paul. Him and DeAndre Jordan will have mediocre careers if they did not play with Chris Paul. Just saying. NetsBoy, Blake Griffin played well before Chris Paul got there. It's all hype. Watch the guy play. He occasionally just developed his game to have a little bit more of a consistent going to the basket, finishing, and hitting the jump shot. He is working on his game, but he's I don't like him. And 0.5 blocks is inexcusable, in my opinion. Just saying, when you average the same amount of blocks per game as Kemba Walker, there's a problem. And you're as gifted as he is as an athlete. That's why I have him at number 4. You cannot be a power forward and average 21, 7, and only 0.5 blocks per game. You cannot. That's why Blake Griffin's number 4. Deal with it, because that is the truth, and he is a piece of crap. Anyway, number 3. Getting a little worked up. Number 3 power forward, I went with Pau Gasol. But NetsBoy, wasn't Pau Gasol a center? No. He ended up playing the center position when Joakim Noah got hurt, but Pau Gasol was really a power forward originally and kind of still is more of a power forward than a center. 18.5 points per game, 11.8 rebounds, 1.9 blocks per game. Pau Gasol should not be averaging more blocks per game than Blake Griffin. I'm just saying. That's my personal opinion of mine. Player efficiency rating 22.73. Shot 49% from the field goal percentage. Great numbers, but you're 18, 11, and almost 2 blocks per game. I take that over 21, 7, and 0.5. That's why I have Gasol over Griffin. Great defensive player. Great player. Can post up. Can shoot the mid-range shot. Can put back shots. Good defensive player. Shot 49%. Pau Gasol is definitely better than Blake Griffin. Pau Gasol had a great year last year. I was so happy for him because I like Pau Gasol. And I'm glad he had a good year in Chicago. I don't know if he's going to put up as good of a year this year. But, you know, he is aging, but we'll see. But that's why he's 3 and Griffin is 4, because 18 and 11 and 2 blocks per game is better than 21, 7, and 0.5 blocks. It just is. It just is. So, Pau Gasol, my number 3 power forward. Which now takes me to my number 2 power forward, which is LaMarcus Aldridge. LaMarcus Aldridge, 23.4 points per game, 10.2 rebounds, 1 block per game, better than Blake. Shot 46% from the floor. That's a little low, but he shot a lot, and he shoots a lot of jump shots. And it's low for a big. Efficiency rating of 22.85. Shot 35% from three-point, which I didn't realize. I mean, he didn't shoot a lot of threes, but when he did, he still shot a respectable number. It's pretty good from a power forward spot. And 84 from the free throw line. That's great. That's another thing Blake Griffin doesn't do. He doesn't shoot free throws well, which is terrible. Blake Griffin. 84% free throw from free throws. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, there you go. I mean, a couple years ago, I had him as my top 3 underrated players. I had LaMarcus Aldridge out on that list. He's no longer going under the radar. He really hasn't the last 2 seasons. People have kind of realized how good he is now. 23, 10, shooting 46%, but 23 and 10, that's fantastic. I'm glad he's with the Spurs. I liked him on the Blazers. The Spurs, I think, is going to be great because I think he's going to really be a key player to them. But 23 and 10, 22.85 player efficiency rating. I mean, that's fantastic. And that's why I have him as the number 2 power forward. And let's be honest, I think LaMarcus Aldridge is the most skilled offensive big man in the NBA. And I love Brook Lopez. We all know that. Brook Lopez all the way. But I think he's a little bit better offensive player than Lopez because he's more consistent with his post game. Not with his post game, with his shooting. LaMarcus Aldridge almost never misses an open jump shot. If you ever watch the Trailblazers play, when he's on, he doesn't miss. And, I mean, you could make an argument that Lopez is the most skilled offensive big man, but I think LaMarcus Aldridge is. But either way, I mean, I definitely think Marcus Aldridge is number 2, hands down. He's probably the most skilled big man. 23 and 10. Go-to player. Good efficiency rating. Just a great player overall. LaMarcus Aldridge, number 2. Which now brings me to my number 1 power forward, Anthony Davis. Now, not much of a shock. I owe Anthony Davis an apology. Last year, when ESPN ranked all the NBA players, they had from 500 through 1. I think they had Anthony Davis at 4. It might have been a little bit higher than that or lower than that, 8-ish around there. Somewhere around there. I think it could have been 4. I don't remember. I didn't check. If anybody wants to go online and check to see what ESPN ranked him as a top player, I don't remember. But it was really high. And I flipped out about it in one of my videos, 25, 26 videos, something like that ago. Saying, how could this be? I will be shocked if he has that good of a year. He's not a top 5 player in the NBA. That's unbelievable. Blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. Well, he kind of proved me wrong. 24.4 points per game, 10.2 rebounds, 2.9 blocks, almost 3 blocks per game. Field goal percentage of 53%, which is really high for someone who's scoring 24 points per game. And a player efficiency rating of 30.89. Unbelievable numbers, unbelievable statistics. Anthony Davis, you are definitely a top 5 player in the NBA. You're definitely the number 1 power forward, and you can definitely make a case that he could be a top 3 player in the NBA, and he could have even won the MVP last year. And very impressive numbers. And the shocking thing is the guy's going into like his 3rd or 4th year. I mean, the sky is the limit for him. And I owe him an apology. I tip my hat to you and say sincerely, Anthony Davis, I am sorry I ever doubted you. I'm excited to see what you're going to do next season. 24, 10, and 3 blocks. 53% field goal percentage. 30.89 efficiency rating. Unbelievable numbers. Unbelievable numbers. That's why Anthony Davis is the number 1 power forward in the league. And you know what? You can definitely make a case that he's the best player in the NBA. I can make a case for that. His team needs to pick it up. You know, the Pelicans, they did make the playoffs last year, but they need to get some good start, consistent players around him because he's the real deal. So, Anthony Davis, number 1 power forward. So there you have it. Recap, honorable mention, Kevin Love. Number 5, Zach Randolph. Number 4, crappy Blake Griffin. Number 3, Pau Gasol. Number 2, LaMarcus Aldridge. And number 1, Anthony Davis. Tell me what you think. Let me know who you guys have in your top 5. Do you have Dirk? Do you have Paul Millsap? Do you have Thaddeus Young? Do you have someone else? Tim Duncan? There's a lot of good power forwards out there. But those are my top 5. So let me know what you think and post your own. And keep your eyes open for the latest NetsBoy episodes. Next week, top 5 centers. I wonder if Brook Lopez will be there. I wonder. We'll see. So keep your eyes open for the latest NetsBoy. And until then, this is NetsBoy getting messages and signing off.